Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Dark Powerrr, where we talk about, well, almost everything that happens on Tuesdays, whether it's AEW Dark, UWN, Primetime Live, or the NWA. But we're doing something a little different today. I can't really use that same intro, even though I, preface the show as I always do. Because we're waiting on UWN and NWA to give us some new content, we here at True Heels decided, we don't want to rest on our laurels while they are working out all of their issues when it comes to the pandemic and see exactly how they're going to be able to come back and bring back all of their wrestlers and competitors in an in-ring nature. We here at True Heels are going to give you more. Do what we can to find ways to get you the content that you're looking for, and that's why going forward I will be also reviewing MLW Fusion, which, if you didn't know, does not air on Tuesdays. So I can't really use the same intro as always. So I'll work on that. We'll workshop it. Maybe put your suggestions in the comments below. Which reminds me, as always, to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe if you have not already. Even if it is telling me that you hate my intro, I will appreciate it all the same. Don't you worry. Now we're gonna talk about AEW Dark. There were a couple of good matches that kind of stuck out to me here. No waiting room this week. We do know that we are getting a waiting room on Dynamite. That was a kind of a letdown for me in a sense. I kind of like the aspect of having the waiting room on Dark, having it be kind of a Dark exclusive, if you will. Just added things that add to the experience of Dark. So that kind of separates it from Dynamite. But when you have somebody like Cody Rhodes coming on, I can understand why you are going to have the waiting room on Dynamite. So we'll kick things off with talking about things that stood out. One thing was the Ty Conti match. Ty Conti versus Marty Daniels. That I thought was a pretty good match because to me what stood out is they are working really hard to build Ty Conti, build Anna Jay. Anna Jay has a match later in this show against Alex Gracia that also was a pretty good match, but they are continuing to try to develop and build out the young female talent. Ty Conti is somebody that I don't think WWE should have let go, but I can understand why, considering how stacked the NXT women's division is, and just in general how stacked WWE's women's division is. They realized, as good as she may be, we don't really have a need for her. We don't really have a space for her. And I won't say loss, but their decision is AEW's gain. And that's something that will work out, I think, very well for AEW in the long road. I really liked the Dark Order tag match against Shawn Dean, Zach Clayton, Adam Priest, Danny Limelight, and Barry Morales. My John Huber, Brody Lee shirt came in the mail yesterday, so I wanted to make sure that I included it on this review. Rest in peace once again to Brody Lee, Mr. Brody Lee of the Dark Order. Another match that stood out to me, another Dark Order match, was Reynolds and Silver versus Casey Navarro and El Australiano. Now, what I liked about this match is that we always kind of took Dark Order as comedy acts, and to a certain extent, Reynolds and Silver are designed to be comedy relief. If you watch them on BTE, they are probably the funniest thing. Well, John Silver is the funniest thing on Mondays when it comes to wrestling, because he's probably beating anything that's happening on WWE. But they always were kind of treated as entertainers first, wrestlers second. We weren't looking to them for good in-ring action, and that was kind of a shame because the Dark Order with Reynolds and Silver are really, really good in the ring. And now, with the untimely passing of Mr. Brody Lee, they're getting more time. They're getting the ability to showcase what they can do. And thus far, they've been doing a very, very good job of doing just that. They are continuing to knock it out of the park, and this tag match is a really great example of what exactly they are and what exactly they do, and that's something that's really big. Now, it's kind of interesting that earlier in the evening, there was a Dark Order match where Danny Limelight took a loss, because later in the show, there's a Varsity Blondes tag match where they win against Lee Johnson and Aaron Solo, and Varsity Blondes and Danny Limelight are supposed to be the opponents of the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, on Dynamite. So you give Varsity Blondes a win, but you don't give Danny Limelight a win. I don't know. Maybe they could have done a little switcheroo here and there. I liked Louis Valley versus Powerhouse Hobbs, and Red Velvet versus Leva Bates was really good to me. I like this match because Bates is one of the most talented in-ring performers that they have in the women's division, and they are starting to use her better and better when it comes to being an in-ring guide for the women. Now, they definitely do this outside of the ring when the cameras aren't rolling, and she is definitely teaching and showing and working as a coach, but having that in-ring time with her opponents, with her pupils is the better way to put it, is always good as well, especially when cameras are rolling, because now you're putting that pressure on the student to remember everything that the teachers taught you. So that's always important, and this was a good showing for Red Velvet, picking up a win. I don't know what exactly they're going to be doing with Red Velvet going forward. That remains to be seen, especially because she was tied so closely to the hip of Brandy Rhodes, who was out on her maternity leave with her pregnancy. So another match that I liked was the second to last match of Bear Country versus Baron Black and Nick Comoroto. That was a really good match. I liked that one. And finally, Chaos Project versus Top Flight. Incredible match. That is something that you want to, out of some of the matches that I'm talking about here, that's one that you want to check out as well. Top Flight are a really strong push for a youth movement within AEW, and Chaos Project are very good hands in the ring to help them along the way, and having these two duke it out in the main event of AEW Dark is, I think, a really good choice. I'm hoping to see more matches actually between the two of them. I think it will be kind of interesting to have a undercard, mid-card, whatever you want to call them, for these two teams kind of feud for just dominance. And even if you keep it on Dark, even better. That is something that will be really good. You can build them up, and then you can showcase these matches when you are doing promo videos for Top Flight, for stuff on Dynamite. But moving towards MLW Fusion, this was a very interesting show. It was a very interesting drop-in point for somebody who has not really watched a lot of MLW Fusion in the past. That is I'll freely admit to that. I'll freely cop to that. Much like Impact, I was not a big watcher until I was asked to review, but I am now learning, and this is an interesting thing because much like Dark, much like the NWA, and to a certain extent Impact, you can go back and see a lot of the things on YouTube. With MLW Fusion, everything is on YouTube, which is really, really great. You're not paying for it. You're not having to reach out of your pocket. You're just watching ads that air during the show. Now, I will say there was a large number of ads, but hey, for me not having to pay for it, I'm willing to sit through what ads I need to sit through. As to the show itself, there was kind of I think they're coming out of that pay-per-view, Kings of Colosseum, or the big show that they had, King of Colosseum, and it was kind of a reset in that sense. Kind of, let's let the dust settle from everything that happened in our big show and kind of get momentum moving behind different pieces, start new things as we need to. So in that sense, there's not a lot of in-ring action. However, what they did do with promo videos, I will say, was incredible. So match-wise, there's only 3 matches, one of which goes 6 seconds. It starts off low-key, just basically knocks a dude out and pins him, 1, 2, 3, gets the job done. That's your 6-minute match. Or 6-second match, I'm sorry. I'm too used to 6:05 with NWA, the TV title. But the middle match of Mil Muertes versus Brian Pillman, I thought that was a pretty good one because it's showcasing Mil Muertes' strength. For those who don't remember him from Lucha Underground, you are getting a good primer in Mil Muertes. For those who do remember him from Lucha Underground, you are just basically saying your prayers for Brian Pillman. And finally, in our main event, we have Los Parks versus the Von Erichs for the MLW Tag Team Championship. Now, one thing to state is that this episode is very Zelina De La Renta oriented, for good reason. She is labeled as the executive producer of this week's episode. She is in charge of the show, so it makes sense that everything is going to be kind of built around her. She's the one bringing out Mil Muertes. She is the manager of Los Parks. She, low-key, after he wins, he references her in his promo. So all of that kind of makes sense. And she does a very, very good job of acting as the glue to hold this show together. And from what I understand, she is part of the overall glue that holds MLW together, which even more props to her. I had the kind of pleasure of briefly meeting and talking to her, like more like in the distance kind of thing, because during the second Starcast, because I was there with Sid and other members of the True Heels who kind of knew her more or knew her better, and they were able to talk to her. And it was just kind of being able to see how she's able to interact with fans. And she has a very good presence about her. And on the camera, she does a very good job as well. So I'm interested to see more about how she's going to work her faction in with MLW. I'm learning more about their factions as well. Contra Unit is something that is very interesting to me. Joseph Fatu, the promo videos that they aired, and also the things I've read and heard in the past are very intriguing, I will say. And I like the aspects of Contra Unit when it comes to the variety. That's something that's always appealing to me when it comes to a faction, is factions need to have different members that have different feels to them. The same way that Dynasty has that to a certain extent, and that was something that was really interesting with the promos that involved Dynasty members with Hammerstone. And I liked the character work. I think that's basically where I'm going with this, is that character work on MLW is something that is really good. You can see where somebody like MJF was able to build a lot of his character and learn a lot about who MJF is and what MJF is all about when he was on MLW. You can see a lot about the Von Erichs and learn about who they are as characters, both in promo videos and in their in-ring work. Filthy Tom Lawler. I'm looking forward to seeing that Filthy Island. I'm guessing that's a kind of a play off of Fight Island that UFC runs right now because of the pandemic. But his work in his promo segments were really good. The only thing that I didn't really find that intriguing or interesting, or whatever I word that I normally use that we would put in here, was actually the main event, that tag team match, or tag title match, excuse me. That match was really weird. I think that's a way to put it. If I had to rate it, since I don't normally rate matches on Dark Powerrr, but if I had to rate this match, I gotta give this one like a 2 stars, because one, LA Park moves ridiculously slow, and he's ridiculously just not unwieldy is what I'm trying to is what I'm thinking of, but I know that word doesn't make sense because me personally, I'm not lifting anything, but he just looks just off in the ring. And maybe that was one thing. I'm looking up some information about this person. The build weight is 220 pounds, and there's no way he is 220 pounds and 6'1". I'm 6 feet tall and 220, 230 on a bad day. So there's no way that this guy is 220 pounds, and he's an inch taller than me. No, that part of it's unbelievable to me. And when you're in the ring with athletes the caliber of the Von Erichs, who just have a look about them and can move at certain speeds, when you are not able to hang with them, it shows. And to the Von Erichs credit and to El Hijo de Park's credit, the three of them tried to cover very well for the shortcomings of LA Park. And it worked in some cases, it didn't work in other cases. And part of the reasons why it didn't work in some cases is, granted, Tom Lawler is being a blatantly cheating referee. Tom Lawler is a special guest referee for this match. It's obvious that this is leaning towards some chicanery is going to happen, and Los Parks are walking out with these titles. But they make the match, I guess, a no DQ match. There isn't 100% of an explanation. Some of the commentators are trying to come up with something to cover what the explanation is as to why all of a sudden Los Parks are able to use belts and chairs, or a stool, in this match, and there's no issue. And the other thing is that if it's a no DQ match, okay, so let me explain the finish. The finish of this match comes when somebody dressed up just like LA Park comes out from underneath the ring, gets into the ring, attacks one of the Von Erichs, leaves him laying, then rolls out of the ring and goes back and hides like almost underneath the ring but on the side. Here's why this doesn't make sense. 1, Tom Lawlor, the referee, is not in the ring. He's on the outside of the ring because he took a bump. 2, when the fake LA Park, who I have a feeling is Muertes, gets out of the ring to go hide, he hides on the same exact side that Tom Lawlor is. So basically, he's looking like this, crouched, and Tom Lawlor's looking dead straight at him. Looks up, sees that there's an LA Park in the ring, and there's a guy dressed like LA Park. Something's wrong with this scene. And all Tom Lawlor does is get back into the ring and counts to 1, 2, 3 on a fast count. Oh, wait, because it didn't matter. Because Tom Lawlor was basically in on it the whole time. So why bother having the person dressed like LA Park hiding under the ring when you didn't need to? You could have been blatant with the cheating because Zelina had already rigged it in your favor. I'm not sure exactly how all of that's going to play out, but we shall see on the next episode or the next bit of MLW Fusion, where also we will be dealing with some of the fallout of Zelina's promotion, Dorado, her faction apparently being bought by a mysterious purchaser. Who is this new person who has taken over control of the faction? How did they take control of the faction without her? And she seemed surprised by it. I don't know, but we shall find out as we start to cover MLW Fusion together here on Dark Powerrr. It has been quite a ride with Dark Powerrr. I will say that because obviously we covered AEW Dark, then NWA Power, then Power dropped away, and we added in Impact as well as Primetime Live. But the name did not change. We still were Dark Powerrr. Then Impact went back to Chris. Ness joined him there. We kept Primetime Live. Primetime Live's dropped away, and we now have Fusion. So Dark Fusion or Fusion Dark or something to that effect. But either way, guys, I appreciate every single one of you that tunes in on a week-to-week basis and hears my thoughts and shares my thoughts. And we appreciate all of you as we do always with True Heels. Thank you once again for spending time with us. And until next time, guys, remember to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you later. Take care of yourselves.